For as much as we've lauded general manager John Schneider and coach Carroll for coming out of this Russell Wilson trade looking like both men are also due a tremendous amount of praise and credit when it comes to the moves they didn't make. Namely, not marrying themselves to a bad quarterback last year. There were so many names bandied about last offseason, from vets to incoming rookies. It kind of felt like general manager John Schneider and coach Carroll were tiptoeing through a landmine field, trying to avoid stepping on the wrong quarterback who could blow up the rebuild, or at the very least, set it back a couple of years as you become married to the wrong guy. But let me take you back to last offseason, and the first landmine the team was able to avoid, Russell
Mr. Unlimited
Wilson. Yes, at the time he was still on the roster, but a call was placed from Wilson's agent Mark Rodgers to John Schneider, broaching the subject of a contract extension with Wilson still having 2 years left on his deal. I think the call went a little something like this.
John Schneider.
Rodgers.
Yes.
What do you want?
We thought it was time to pay the precious.
Wilson still has 2 years left on his deal. You know we have a policy not to negotiate extensions with more than 1 year remaining.
Yes, we do. You made exceptions before. Why not for precious?
Because I'm still trying to bleed out the bonus money of his last deal on the current cap, Mark. It's not happening, Rodgers.
Fine, your way is fine. Remember, the cost only goes up.
What does that mean?
$50 million a year, 60 the next, if you wait to pay the price.
We already paid the price.
And you will pay precious again. Go ahead.
Ooh, I'm going to trade him. Son of a bitch. That's just how I see it in my head. Now, certainly the Broncos at this point are regretting paying Russell Wilson all that money, say nothing of the lost draft picks as well. It also appears that they're not going to be benefiting from his former once high level of play at the position. My number one, avoided. And then came a string of quarterback names the pundits said we had to take. When one came off the board, they just moved on to another. It appeared irrelevant whether it was the proper fit or the right price. Whoever was a name was the guy the Seahawks desperately needed to trade for. It went from Marcus Mariota to how about the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. New Orleans, the Cowboys, and Cincy, those were just pit stops, right? Would Baker Mayfield be willing to headbutt our linemen affectionately in Seattle, they asked? Carson Wentz flamed out in Philly and Indy, but maybe Seattle would be the right spot for him. When the Panthers traded for Mayfield, the media's eyes quickly turned towards former Jets cast-off Sam Darnold. Even Colin Kaepernick's name was raised as a better option to the locksmith proposition. Jimmy Garoppolo's name was floated, considered, and then smartly ignored. Some wondered if the Seahawks should see if Miami would be willing to trade Tua. The Redskins traded for Wentz, so hey, how about a run at Taylor Heineke? The Minshew maniacs made their voices heard. The team held firm and didn't bite on any of them. Last offseason, there was a tremendous amount of national and local pressure for the front office to immediately address the quarterback position. It was viewed as franchise seppuku to start Geno Smith or Drew Lock at quarterback for a full season, the embodiment of tanking. The team took their lumps for their lack of movement and stuck to their guns. There just wasn't an available quarterback that was good enough for them to make a go-for-broke, in-the-moment move that was unlikely to substantially elevate the play of the position. If you've got a suit already in the closet, why go pay for a cheap knockoff that's already been worn?
Where's my camera? Right here? All right, come on. Get it.
Wow, this is a moment.
John Schneider, I know you watch this show. GM of the Seahawks, I'm begging you. I would get on my knees, but I can't right now. Please, for the love of God, draft Malik Willis.
By the time the draft rolled around, it seemed like the national perspective was practically psychotic for the Hawks to take a quarterback. Exactly like the free agent offerings, the Seahawks, and the rest of the NFL for that matter, viewed the 2022 quarterback class like a tiny house selling for mansion prices. You had baby hands Pickett. Cody Two Gloves had only 1 year of productivity at Pitt after playing like 10 years of college football. And it kind of felt like the Steelers were taking him in part because he was a local kid, and in part because they once passed on a local kid from Pitt who went on to a Hall of Fame career in Miami. Over the next 2 rounds, the Seahawks kept picking and kept passing on quarterbacks, as did the rest of the NFL, all the way to the 10th selection in the 3rd round where Desmond Ridder was picked by the Falcons. Ridder was supposedly the most pro-ready of this quarterback class, but he was unable for most of the season to overtake that gunslinger, Marcus Mariota, for the starting role. The same Mariota who was 22nd in passing yards this year, 27th in completion percentage, 19th in quarterback rating, and 14 in QBR. Not exactly numbers that embed you into the starting position when there's a young guy on deck. It's also worth noting that Mariota was one of those targets mentioned for the Hawks, and Geno far outplayed him in every quarterback statistic. Between these two minds, John Schneider and Pete Carroll continued to tiptoe. Then you have the Titans taking Malik Willis 12 picks later. He was a guy that many thought the Seahawks would take at 9 overall in the 1st round. Willis looked very raw playing at a small school against lesser competition in college. It was going to take him time, and probably a good amount of time at that. He had only 30 attempts this year, but outside of one 48-yard throw, the stats are bad. 40% completion percentage, 4.7 yard average per attempt, 40 quarterback rating, not QBR, quarterback rating. His legs were supposed to be a big part of his game, but he only averaged 3.6 yards per carry on 18 attempts. The kid might eventually develop, but it's going to take years. Another mine dodged. Right near the end of the 3rd round, the Panthers took Matt Corral out of Mississippi. Like Willis, he was going to take time to develop, and he also had questions about his size and ability to hold up physically. Then in the preseason, he went down to a season-ending foot injury. The injury concerns were valid with Corral. That mine exploded, but John Schneider was nowhere near it. Finally, you got Sam Howell out of North Carolina, who fell all the way down to the Commanders in the 5th round. Sam's final year at UNC had been a disappointment after he lost 4 skill position players to the NFL the year before, while also being asked to play in a new offense. In his first season, he hardly lit up the preseason and couldn't overtake Carson Wentz or Taylor Heineke for the starting job. That mine remains on the bench, undetonated, though supposedly he's earmarked to be the starter next year. All of these young guys may develop. I don't want to seem like I'm prematurely labeling them as busts or that their story is set. But at the very least, none of these young guys or the free agent quarterback class of last year appear to be lost opportunities at pure gold. The Seahawks' decision to stand pat appears to be the right call. I also believe this was a purposeful choice from a team philosophy standpoint. The Seahawks appear to be fitting to the same designs for success that they utilized in 2011 and 2012. The one where you build a stacked team across the board and make adding the quarterback the final part of the master plan. Some teams will start with the quarterback first, get them crushed because of a lack of supporting cast, stunt their growth and potential, while also then derailing their career. Because they have remained patient, the Seahawks enter this offseason not trying to unmarry themselves from a middling quarterback prospect, while also keeping the books clear of a big money deal for average quarterback play. They've avoided these moves and have a better team for it. Now, we enter the draft with 2 first-round picks, 1 in the top 5, 4 picks in the first 52 selections. The Seahawks will have an opportunity to take one of the better quarterbacks in this class. Or, if they want to take their chances like they once did before, look for a Russell Wilson type in the middle rounds. The blueprint has worked so far. Why deviate from it now? Football success is sometimes driven by the moves you don't make as much as the ones you do. The front office's 2022 assessment of the quarterback draft and free agent class should provide Seahawks fans some confidence that the team is trending in the right direction towards their next quarterback. Their faith in Geno Smith has brought in obscene returns, and let's not forget, it was John Schneider back in the day who did draft Russell Wilson. He was also the guy at Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes' pro day, which at the time did piss off Russell Wilson's camp, but does go to show John Schneider has a keen eye for quarterback talent. The Seahawks front office just walked over a quarterback landmine field like they could see the explosives beneath their feet. At this point, with their arsenal of picks and their astute track record, they've earned the benefit of the doubt. and trusting in their quarterback vision. And if they should stick with that old magical plan that once worked so well before, they might just find themselves back in the Super Bowl again very soon. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.